The airplane cabin buzzed with the usual pre-flight chatter, seat belts clicking, overhead bins slamming shut, the murmur of tired travelers settling in. Amelia Hart sank into her window seat, adjusting her cardigan and tucking a stray curl behind her ear. She'd spent the last 5 days in New York, performing with her students at a school music festival, and now she was heading home to London. Her guitar case, scarred with stickers and years of travel, rested carefully beneath the seat in front of her. She hoped the next 7 hours would be uneventful, a nap, a movie, maybe a cup of tea. But as soon as the plane lifted off the runway, peace shattered. A child's cry sliced through the steady hum of the engines, sharp, desperate, and heartbreakingly loud. The sound turned heads instantly. Businessmen sighed. A woman in first class pressed her noise-canceling headphones tighter. Amelia glanced across the aisle. The boy couldn't have been more than 4, chubby cheeks streaked with tears, tiny fists rubbing at his eyes. His small body trembled with hiccuping sobs. Beside him sat a man, his father, clearly, trying and failing to soothe him. He looked striking even in distress. Dark hair slightly tousled, strong jaw clenched in helplessness, the rolled sleeves of his white shirt revealing muscular forearms. He whispered something softly, rocking the boy against his chest. "It's okay, Liam, shish, Daddy's here." But Liam only wailed louder, his cries breaking into hiccups that echoed through the cabin. The father's face pinched with worry and embarrassment as he muttered an apology to the flight attendant who approached with a forced smile. Amelia felt a tug in her chest. She knew that kind of cry. It wasn't just restlessness. It was fear, the kind that came from being small in a big, unfamiliar world. She watched for a moment as the man fumbled for a toy from the seat pocket, his movements tense. Then, instinctively, she unbuckled her seatbelt. She didn't plan it. She just couldn't sit there while a child cried like that. Cradling her guitar case, she leaned across the aisle and said softly, "Excuse me, would you mind if I try something?" The man looked up, startled, his tired blue eyes meeting hers. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he nodded, almost in surrender. And that's when everything began to change. Amelia slid into the empty seat across the aisle, careful not to startle the boy. She set her guitar case on her lap and gave the father a gentle smile, one that said, "Trust me." The man nodded, still holding his son close, his expression torn between hope and exhaustion. "Hey there, sweetheart," Amelia murmured softly, her voice low and warm. The little boy peeked up from his father's shoulder, eyes red and wet, hiccuping between sobs. "Rough takeoff, huh," she said, pretending to whisper a secret. The boy didn't answer, but his crying slowed to a whimper. Amelia reached for her guitar and pulled it out, the polished wood gleaming under the cabin lights. She strummed once, softly, gently, a simple chord that rippled through the air like a breath of calm. The noise around them seemed to fade. The whir of the engines, the rattle of drink carts, even the sighs of restless passengers. Then she began to sing. It was a lullaby her mother used to hum, a melody so tender it could quiet storms. Her voice floated through the air, smooth and steady, each note wrapping the boy like a warm blanket. "Sleep, little dreamer, the stars are your light. Close your small eyes, the world's safe tonight." Passengers turned to look, but not with irritation now, with awe. Even the flight attendant paused mid-aisle, her smile softening. The boy's sobs melted into sniffles, then into silence. He blinked at Amelia, his lashes still wet, and reached out. One tiny hand toward the sound. Amelia smiled mid-song and leaned closer, keeping her voice hushed, almost like a secret just for him. The guitar hummed gently beneath her fingers, her melody steady and soothing. Within moments, his eyes began to flutter shut. The little bear in his lap slipped from his hand as sleep claimed him. The father exhaled deeply, shoulders sagging in relief. For the first time since takeoff, he looked truly at ease. He brushed a stray curl from his son's forehead and whispered, "Thank you." Amelia gave a modest shrug, still smiling. "Just doing what I do best," she replied quietly. He studied her for a moment. Her calmness, her kindness, and something unreadable flickered behind his tired eyes. Gratitude, certainly, but perhaps something more. Hours passed, and the airplane lights dimmed to a sleepy glow. Most passengers had drifted off, the hum of the engines now a steady lullaby of its own. Amelia sat quietly by the window, sipping lukewarm tea and scrolling through her music notes. Across the aisle, little Liam slept soundly, his tiny head resting against his father's shoulder. Every now and then, the man, Ethan, she had overheard the flight attendant call him, adjusted the blanket around his son with the kind of care that came from love deeper than words. He caught Amelia's gaze and smiled faintly. "He hasn't slept this peacefully in weeks," he whispered. Amelia smiled back, lowering her voice. "Lullabies are magical things. I teach music, so I've learned a few tricks for restless little dreamers." "Then I owe you a very big thank you," Ethan said, his tone carrying genuine warmth now, not the polite edge he'd had before. "I was starting to think we'd have to turn the plane around." Amelia laughed softly. "I don't think the pilot would have appreciated that." They both chuckled, and for a moment, the exhaustion in his eyes softened into something lighter. "I'm Ethan," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm yet gentle, his palm warm. "And this is Liam, my little troublemaker." "Amelia Hart," she replied. "Music teacher. Part-time airplane entertainer, apparently." He smiled at that, looking down at his son. "We've been traveling a lot lately. It's been a rough few months." Something in his tone shifted, a quiet heaviness that told her not to pry, but also not to ignore. Amelia nodded softly. "Travel can be hard for kids," she said. "New places, new faces. It's a lot to process." He hesitated, then said quietly, "His mother passed away earlier this year." Amelia's heart sank. "I'm so sorry." Ethan nodded, staring out the window into the darkness. "I keep trying to hold everything together, for him, but sometimes I feel like I'm just lost." Amelia wanted to reach across the aisle, to offer something more than words, but she simply said, "You're doing better than you think." He looked at her then, truly looked, his guarded composure cracking just enough for honesty to slip through. "You're kind, Amelia. Most people don't bother to be." She smiled softly. "Maybe the world would be gentler if more people sang lullabies when things got hard." He didn't answer, but the small, grateful curve of his lips said everything. The announcement crackled through the cabin speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be landing in London shortly. Please fasten your seatbelts." Morning light spilled through the airplane windows, brushing the world in shades of soft gold. Liam stirred, blinking sleepily, and reached for his stuffed bear. Amelia smiled as she watched him wake, still nestled safely in his father's arms. Ethan caught her glance and mouthed a silent, "Thank you." As the plane descended, there was a strange feeling in the air, one of quiet connection. Amelia hadn't meant for any of this to happen. She had only wanted to comfort a frightened child, but somehow, over the course of the night, she had eased more than one heart. When they landed and passengers began gathering their luggage, Ethan turned to her. "You really have a gift, Amelia. I don't think I'll ever forget that song." She shrugged, trying to play it off. "It's just music. I'm glad it helped." "No," he said softly, "it was more than that." His sincerity made her cheeks warm. She busied herself with her guitar case, unsure how to respond. Liam was now wide awake, his earlier distress replaced by shy curiosity. "Miss Melia," he said in a small voice, "can you sing again?" Amelia laughed. "Maybe next time, little one." Ethan smiled, a rare, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "If you ever want a job singing lullabies, I think I know a little boy who'd love to hear more." At the baggage claim, they stood awkwardly for a moment amid the chaos of suitcases and sleepy travelers. Amelia hesitated, not wanting to overstep. "It was lovely meeting you both," she said, adjusting her strap. "Take care of each other, okay?" Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black business card, the kind that looked far too elegant for casual exchanges. "If you ever need anything, or if you'd like to teach one more song, please call." She smiled, taking it politely, tucking it into her bag without looking. "I'll keep that in mind." They parted ways there, Amelia heading toward the train terminal, Ethan and Liam disappearing into a waiting black car. Later, on the ride home, curiosity got the better of her. She pulled out the card and turned it over. The embossed name read, "Ethan Ward, CEO, Ward Technologies International." Her heart skipped. A billionaire widower, but to her, he was still just a father on a plane, and a little boy who'd fallen asleep to her song.